I can already guess, based on her voice and just the energy coming off of her, what she wishes this to be and what her bias is going into this whole thing. And a lot of times that's what very soft-spoken New Ager types that seem to believe in karma and the chakras and all the body stuff, they feel like they're spiritual, but really they don't really want the truth. What they want is, it's wishful thinking. They want this realm and this whole thing to be what they wish it is, rather than what it actually is. Now, I wish there weren't millions of people in this realm with blindness. But there's the next step. There's people that have suffered, but they don't look at the suffering of others all around them. They don't look at the big picture, that there's massive suffering here. Jennifer Perez, this is a playground, whatever you want it to be. Okay, so that is very New Agey, New Cagey. Cynthia Sue Larson responded, playfulness brings joy to life experience and a heart. Now that is a New Agey response as you're going to get, okay? It says almost nothing, right? About reality, about Earth, about where we are. Does it address what this place is? Is this realm a playground? And is this realm whatever you want it to be? That's what you have to not get thrown off by this stuff, okay? Limitations by design, cognitive biases, all sorts of things. Basically designed to cripple us. It's part of the design. It's not choice. It's not free will. Look at the amount of views on this and the amount of likes on this. And it's just premiered March 1st. So, and
what's your thought on this whole idea that we, the people, are being farmed for energy in this reality? Basically, Plato's cave, with a layer of energy farming from the archons that were being held prisoners in this reality.
You know, it's a way of dodging truth without doing the work, without doing the research. And by doing the research, I'm not talking about reading Howdy's book, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. Quote, we consented. So do prisoners consent? Because he also pushes the consent thing. Do prisoners consent? That makes no sense. Howdy conflicts with himself, within his own books and his own writings and his own YouTube, what he says on YouTube. He contradicts himself. He's in conflict. Is very flawed. It's a bad allegory to use, and it misleads people. I want to jump in for a minute. A lot of New Agers are free spirits, which I can respect, but a lot of them have a mentality almost like children and like hippies. I know it's not the 1960s, but they're very much like hippies. So as soon as they hear trap or caged or prison and prisoners, they're thrown way off, and they want to reject it immediately, because that's their mentality. That's their mindset. It's the last thing that they want, which in some ways I can respect, and I can definitely understand it. Okay? So that's why I think the terms used are misleading. Just like flat Earth is pretty misleading.
Not that Robert Monroe wasn't fixated on this, but he did mention it. So anyway.
And then he stopped talking about it completely. It's almost like somebody came in and told him, shut your mouth and don't talk about that anymore. As for David Icke, he's extremely famous. He could fill Wembley Stadium. So you draw your own conclusions on that. Has David Icke spoken a lot of truth over the years? Yeah, he sure has. But who is he connected with? How does he get on TV all the time? Isn't that interesting? How do you get so famous? You're limited by design here. So a lot of New Agers worship this chakra stuff and all that. That's all, like, it's all within the matrix. Your whole body is. That's what a lot don't seem to understand. They worship the body and they worship nature, and somehow they think that's spiritual. But really, they haven't talked about anything spiritual. A lot of times they'll make hours and hours, they'll make hundreds of videos and really not talk about anything spiritual without even realizing it. That they're just worshiping nature and worshiping the body and the chakras and all this, and the pineal gland and all this type of stuff. The third eye. They'll talk about all this stuff that's really flesh and blood and material, like nature's material. You're in a matrix realm, lady. I'm not being mean here. I'm just being very direct and very blunt and very honest, the way that I usually am. I'm not being insulting. I have nothing against her personally. I don't know her. This is the first time that I've ever seen this woman. Okay? So some people, relax, calm down. They're thinking that I go too hard on people. But she really doesn't know what this realm is. You know what the chakras are? I'm not going to call them chains, but they're part of the matrix. Your whole body is. So she kept talking about chains in prison. Well, maybe I will say this. Cells, prison cells, your body's a prison. It's not a temple. So you're way off with the chakra stuff. It's nothing against her personally. Almost every New Ager is that way. They're all like reading from the same script, if you see what I'm saying. They almost all have almost identical beliefs. Humans can't see the darkness in this realm at all. At all. They're tuned out to it. They only see the light and the daylight. They don't know, and what I'm saying is they don't notice the evil and the suffering and the sadistic nature and the cruelty in this realm. They just don't. Never speak about it. Okay? Do baby boys have free will? Do they freely when they're a few days old, do they choose to be circumcised? Do you know how fucking painful that is? The torture? How do I know? Ask a grown man that chooses that. How painful that is. The babies are screaming out, traumatized in pain, strapped down to a board. I mean, the mothers think nothing of it. Western mothers in Canada and United States, they never even think of their sons. They don't think of what they're doing. It's an amputation of an organ. Okay? Yeah, that's what it is. Literally, it's defined that way medically. That's what it is. And it's the most sensitive, has the most nerve receptors in the human body. In other words, it's going to cause more pain than you can imagine. It's so much pain that it rewires the brain. Is that free will? Newborn? Is it free will for, jabba dabba doos to be injected into them and drops of chemicals to be put into their eyes when they're newborn? They first open their eyes? You don't have free will from the start in this life here. From the beginning. From the very beginning. From the first minutes, you're slapped by a doctor. Did you consent to that? You don't have free will in this life in so many ways. It's endless. As I said, I could go on all night. I could start with a newborn, and I could go all the way to a 95-year-old at the end of their life and describe thousands of ways that you don't have free will. I know you want that to be true. You wish that you had free will. And that's the way a lot of New Agers operate and maneuver through life, through wishes, by their wishes. Their beliefs are their wishes. They want to believe that they have free will. But do you really? Do you care about the truth, or do you just care about what makes you feel better?
And I've got a chapter in that book called, whoops, wrong planet. So it's...
Wrong planet? This isn't a planet. So you're far off there. You've got a gap in your knowledge there, in your knowledge base. I had to call it out. Otherwise, people in the comments would say, you didn't even say anything about that or whatever. But anyways, yeah, I catch that. And it indicates something. It indicates that she believes NASA, believes the globe model. She's deceived on that. Okay? Yet she doesn't believe that she could be deceived on the whole reincarnation soul trap. The recycling bin, as I sometimes call it.
That's part of this idea that, there's reincarnation. Near-death experiencers often talk about that. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that we do have past lives. So if that keeps happening, and we keep learning in each lifetime, that's the way I see it, to write...
That's the way she sees it. I have to jump in, I'm sorry. But she doesn't mention the mind wipe. So you don't keep learning. You lose all of your knowledge and your memories, including of your loved ones. I don't remember past lives. When I started this life, I had to learn how to walk again from scratch. Had to learn how to speak, had to learn how to feed myself food, how to brush my teeth, how to take a shower and stuff like that on my own, how to tie my shoes, how to get dressed, how to read, how to print, how to write in cursive. I had to learn math, add, subtract, multiply, divide, all that stuff. Over and over and over and over again. Had to learn what's dangerous, that fire burns you, what cold is, that you can get frostbite, not to touch something that's very cold in Canada in the winter with your bare skin. I don't mean with your wet tongue either. I just mean even with your fingers. You don't touch metal when it's fucking, way below zero here. You don't do that. Lots of things. Lots of things. So she says she just says learn. She's letting on that learning carries on from lifetime to lifetime through reincarnation. That's false. That's totally false. You're starting from scratch each lifetime. You get mind wiped, which is trauma, and prevents learning. It's the opposite of what she's saying. Again, nothing personal against her, but I have to point out these things. Lady, you venerate and worship nature. I can tell. But you won't look at nature and say life eats life all day long, every single second of every single day. All day. Day and night. All over this realm. From the microscopic bacteria eating other bacteria, right to the largest scale of blue whales. What do they feed on? You don't think they feed on something? What is it, plankton? Even those cute dolphins are eating. Tigers, lions, wolves. Just picking those out, sharks. What about giraffes? They're eating. They're eating life. Aren't those leaves behind you alive? Aren't plants alive? Hippos? Rhinos? They might eat grass, but they're eating. Life eats life. There's a little small animal that they can get that's on the ground. They'll eat that too, by the way. Oh yeah. Just like a horse will. They'll eat a mouse or whatever. Like, there's video of that happening. If they can catch something, or, they'll take some meat if they can get it. That's what a lot of New Age vegans don't understand. There's animals that you call grass eaters that will eat some meat.
That's that victim role. And so what I see in the school mindset of life being a school, reality being a school, is that it's possible to recognize that you're not a victim.
At school, do you get your mind wiped at the end of every grade? If you finish second grade, do they memory wipe you before you start third grade? Would that make any sense? Would that prevent learning? That's what's happening. No, she's not very believable because she won't mention any of the suffering here in this realm. Because she's not suffering right now in her life.
That is the prison mentality. That's where it looks like there's a soul trap thing going on. So if you rise above that and
See what she did there? It's pretty tricky. She reduced the soul trap to a prison mentality, to a victim mentality. All right? But lady, you have Stockholm Syndrome. You don't know where you are. And you just ignore all the suffering here and just paint people that speak about it as victims. It's just the same as a Stockholm Syndrome slave saying, hey, we're not suffering here. We're not being abused. Nobody is. And how dare you say that anybody is? You must be crying victim for speaking about it. That's what you're doing. You're oblivious to how this realm works. Either you're oblivious or you're not strong enough to face it and you've gone into denial maybe. Maybe you have looked at it and you just buried it in denial because it was too much for you to take. Maybe you're too weak to face what we faced. Maybe we're stronger than you are, mentally and spiritually, because they're not talking about the suffering, the design, the lies, the deception, all that stuff. They haven't gone near it. You're just dodging. You're avoiding all that stuff. It's obvious to see. Again, nothing personal against her. By disagreeing doesn't mean I, quote, hate her. So some people are really messed up that come to my channel and think that. And they're very much like her then. They're New Agers and leftists, where they think if you disagree with someone, that equals, quote, hate. No, it doesn't. Not at all. I don't hate her at all. I think she's completely wrong. I think she's a Stockholm Syndrome brainwashed slave. She's in a trance, basically. And she's trying to defend an evil realm. She won't even mention evil. I bet this whole video she won't mention evil or suffering. That's what I think. She'll just paint us as victims. Like we're crying victim because we're speaking about reality that she can't even look at or speak about. She can't look at the reality that we see. She can't do it. Maybe she's not strong enough. I could go on forever about the way this realm is designed. Designed. It's not pointing the finger saying my life sucks and I blame whatever outside of me. You're misrepresenting all of this. I don't know if that's intentional, if you're being dishonest, or if you're just oblivious to what you're doing. I didn't design life eating life. Wolves have to eat. They have to eat meat. That's the way they were programmed. They're designed that way. Okay? You just don't understand. I bet you've never watched a nature video of life eating life for 20 minutes. I don't think you understand nature. I think you're completely detached and sheltered from it because you go out where it's nice and safe and peaceful. Right? Go out in the real wilderness. Is victim mentality groupthink, if you can believe it. Is that why all the millions of near-death experiences are lied to? Because we have victim mentality and groupthink? Is that right? Wow. Because that doesn't add up at all, lady.
What is the true nature of reality?
Oh, dear. And you know what, dear? Your dreams might be interfered with and influenced. You might have dreams planted in your mind. Did you ever consider that? What about the people that have sleep paralysis and they see a creature there, or a succubus, or an entity? I don't think you understand the full extent of what's going on here, lady. You're making things very simple because you want things to be simple. It's just sad that these days she can have an influence over almost 31,000 subscribers. So who knows how many she can reach, her potential reach. But it's just sad. You're, without really mentioning it, you're defending the abuse, the mind control, the mind wipes, the suffering here, all of it without really going through it. And the creator, the quote source, everything else. So you have Stockholm Syndrome because you're basically trying to say, this is all good and we're just crying victim. You're exactly the same way as Stockholm Syndrome slaves are. We're sovereign. We're choosing to exercise our agency to go against the system, okay? To choose freedom to leave here. And you're just going to stay and be a slave to it without even really being honest about what this place is. You haven't been honest with yourself. You're not as strong as we are. You got mind wiped and you're okay with that happening endlessly. You're okay with staying here forever, basically, and getting mind wiped over and over and over again. It's like the worst episode you could ever imagine or dream up of the old black and white series, The Twilight Zone. And you're okay with that. That's not sovereignty. That's slavery, including mental slavery, physical slavery, and spiritual slavery. That's what you're choosing. You're choosing to try to rationalize that.
Now, we're clearly living in an optimal reality, which means it's not a soul trap. It's a school.
Do you hear that? Believe that? You can't learn if you can't retain your knowledge. Get mind wiped. This is not a school. You're so far off. The cruelty, the sadism here, it doesn't add up with the school. None of it does. You're delusional. You're not optimistic. You're delusional.
From the How Good Can It Get philosophy. From the How Good Can It Get philosophy.
How bad can it get? Oh, wait, you won't go near that. So how good is your philosophy when you won't go near that? How brutal can it get here? How bad can it get? How terrible can it get? How much more suffering can there be here? You won't go near facing that. So how strong are you? Maybe you're the weak one. Maybe you're the one that's a victim. Maybe you're not strong enough to look at the things that some of us do. Me and others. Me and thousands of others. They love it when you drink that Kool-Aid because that's what they want you to do. You're doing what your masters want you to do. You don't even realize it. You don't even know who controls the New Age and who pushes this shit out there. You don't have a clue. There's almost no New Agers on this realm that understands where that stuff comes from, where that quote source is. You talk about source all the time. You don't know the source of the fucking propaganda that you're believing and following. You don't understand. You just don't understand how this fucking works. You don't understand it. Who do you think prints the New Age books? Who do you think the publishers are? Who do you think runs the puppets that are the leaders of it? Who do you think pushed Eckhart Tolle on Oprah's show decades ago? I mean, how do you think they get so popular? How do you think they get bestseller books? You just don't understand how this fucking realm works. That's a huge problem. New Agers are not just naive, they're ignorant and lazy. They usually don't do very much research. That's what I've noticed. I think there's Christians that do more research than New Agers. Pretty pathetic. So anyway, I'm going to end this video. I've talked forever in this one, but there was a lot that I had to go through.